Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Monday. Kelsey and Dill. I'm on the old set, the OG set. I was home for the weekend in New Jersey. Got up real early today. We're recording Sunday, so the day before. We got up real early to watch the Giants because they're playing in London. So, of course,
Mm.
the New York football stream is at 9 a.m., which I love on my day off. But, Kelsey, how are you on this fine, fantastic morning?
I'm doing good, Dill. I'm having a pretty good morning. I'm having an October filled with spooky movies and things. So this was just another spooky uh film I had to watch and I
Yeah.
had a great time. So
Yeah, I mean, really a spooky treat. We're talking today, of course, you saw the thumbnail. We're talking about Werewolf by Night, which is the newest film slash special, TV special, whatever you want to call it. It's a full length. It is full length, Oscar requirements, but it was debuted on Disney Plus, and it's just experiment genre exercise for Marvel. We will talk about it in just a bit. But first, we talked about it a little bit last week, and I was like, oh, we'll save it for next week. We'll save it for next week. So we got to talk about Deadpool because we kind of glossed
yes.
over it last week.
Yeah.
Um,
Real
so
quick.
so if you want our Werewolf by Night review, we will get there, we promise. But first, we got to talk about Hugh. Um, and I will always love you. Like, wow, like I was not expecting that to be the news that we because Disney bought Fox, so it's like, yeah, Deadpool's gonna come in some point. We heard that it was gonna be R-rated, and they were gonna address that. Like,
Mhm.
they could play around with that. Like, oh hey, guess what, Disney? You bought Deadpool. Guess what? Fuckity fuck. Like, I'm waiting for that to happen, but I did not expect them to bring back Hugh. So,
Mm-mm.
Kelsey, what are your thoughts on this news? I mean, everyone has seen it. I don't need to tell everyone what the actual trailer was. Everyone's pretty much watched it, and everyone's seen the new logo. That kind of
Yeah.
looks like Jurassic Park 3 with like the claws through the 3 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what do you think?
So, Jill, this was kind of spoiled to me through one of the many like movie critic TikToks
Hmm,
that come up on my for you page every now and then.
Peach.
Um, Peach. And so I saw someone reacting to it before I actually saw the video. So at first I was like, is this real? It looks really real. Like that's Ryan Reynolds talking, and like that certainly is Hugh Jackman. But I don't know if it was just like Hugh and Ryan doing a bit together. Like I didn't know. So then of
Hmm,
course I turned to like the real video. And once I saw the logo, I was like, oh, this has got to be legit, right? Like
yeah.
this isn't just like a prank they're pulling on us.
Yeah, and it's not just gonna be like a cameo. Like I watched it because there's two videos. The first one was Ryan talking about Deadpool, and then Hugh kind of just walking up the stairs and him being like,
Yeah.
"Hey Hugh, you want to do another Wolverine movie?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." Um, and then
Yeah.
the second one was them like kind of on the couch talking like,
Yes.
"Here's the movie, what the movie's gonna be about," and then the sound
And
cuts
then
out, and that was
yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
But the
yeah,
first
yeah.
one I saw, I was like, "Oh, so he'll be making a cameo as Wolverine. It'll probably be some little gag. It'll probably be 2 minutes." But then the second trailer, I was like, "Oh, wait, like he's gonna be a main focus, especially with the logo." You bring up a good point. Like the logo, it's like that's legit. Like that.
Mhm.
I assume it's gonna be a team up between the two of them, which is fun because we've never really gotten that. But then begs the question because we have covered all the X-Men movies here, including Deadpool's and Logan.
Mhm.
Does this diminish Logan in terms of its impact, in terms of its quality, because a lot of people are saying, well, it takes place before Logan because Logan takes place in the future. So, like, it's not going to mess with the timeline. And I know that it's not going to mess with the timeline. But in
Sure.
terms of just the overall impact of what Logan was, it was Hugh Jackman's send off for the role. It was his last time playing the role. It is the final film of Wolverine. Does this diminish for you? I mean, obviously the movie hasn't come out, but does this diminish the
Mm.
impact that Logan had, just knowing that that wasn't the last time now? And that like this will be like the last time we see him as Wolverine, maybe. Um, like how do
Mm.
you feel about that? Because I'm a little bit on the fence.
I see what you're saying, Dale. I honestly didn't even think of that. I mean,
Hmm,
like Logan really was iconic and it really was a great send off for Hugh. But then at the same time, it's like then Deadpool 2 was released and the whole bit in the beginning about him dying in the film is like, I feel like that took it away more than like this
yeah,
third installment of Deadpool. Do you know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah,
Especially because, like, you specifically told me when we were watching the Deadpool movies, you were like, "Don't watch Deadpool 2, like, watch Logan first and then watch Deadpool 2
yeah.
because it's spoiled for you right in the beginning."
Hmm,
And honestly, like, definitely can understand where your hesitations and concerns are coming from, but at the end of the day, like, I feel like Ryan and Hugh both really care about the characters of Deadpool and Logan, and I feel
Good
like
point.
they wouldn't wanna do like, this isn't just gonna be, like, fan service. Like, I feel
Mm,
like it's gonna be something that they're gonna put a project forward that they really care about and, like, would do the
mhm.
characters justice. At
Yeah.
least I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, my only hope is that they don't try to retcon anything from Logan. I hope they don't touch it.
Mm.
And Ryan even said, like in his second trailer, he's like, "We're not touching Logan. That was perfect." But I'm like, I just
Yeah.
hope, I just hope this is, if this is gonna be the actual last time he plays Wolverine, I hope it's a good send off, and I'm sure it will be. Um, but I
Yeah.
almost, Deadpool kind of exists outside of the actual in canon universe stuff. Like he's more of a commentator of that. So like, I have no worries that they're gonna like fit him into the story. It's just more of like the actual social, like outside the movie impact of like Logan being his last one. Like people were campaigning him for an Oscar for that. They were like, "Well, he should get an Oscar. Like this is his last time playing this iconic role, and he plays it really well, especially Logan."
Mhm.
So I'm a little bit mixed on it. I'll have to see the movie. I think just to know,
Yeah.
because if it is just like a cameo or whatever, I'm gonna be a little underwhelmed just because they're selling it like he's such a big selling point. But at the same
Sure.
time, if they make him a total goof, where it's like and then they try to like kill him off again at the end of that, or like try to give him some big send off in that, I'm just gonna be like, but you already
Sure.
had that. So I just think it's a matter of what they do with it, and then that we don't know yet. So
Honestly, I think it might be kinda cool to look at what Logan's life looked like before Logan actually happened, because I feel like I mean, I hope that they don't try to do some weird, like, fake out death at the end of this movie, because obviously we know the results of Logan. So I think that however this 3rd Deadpool movie ends, I feel like wherever we see Logan in
mm,
his life at that point, it almost will make what we know happens later on feel like we like know what happens next for him after this. So it
right,
might, I don't know, it might feel like a nice like bridge in between the last X-Men movie and Logan.
yeah. Well,
Who
we'll have to
knows?
wait and see. I mean, it's coming out in 2024, right? Like a long
Yeah.
time away. So we don't even
Yeah.
have to think about it now for another 2 years. I mean, that's what Marvel does. They tell us something that happens 2 years in advance, and then when it's like 5 months away, we forget about it. Just like we did with Werewolf by Night, where we found out about it, and then a lot of time passed, and now
Mhm.
just recently they were like, "Oh yeah, it's coming next month on Disney Plus." We're like, "Wait, next month?" And now it's here, and we saw it,
Mhm.
and I won't say if it's great or not, but it certainly is something that we will talk about, and we're about to. So, Kelsey, do you have any synopsis, like for people who maybe didn't watch World by Night? Spoiler alert: we will be like kind of spoiling it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a 50-minute special with credits, so like it's 40 minutes of your time. I think if you are interested, you're intrigued in the slightest, go watch it. Come back here, we'll talk about it because I mean the story doesn't have any huge spoilers that are like big like plot reveals, but it's like you can't talk about this movie without talking about the namesake, the werewolf, and that is kind of like a late movie thing that happens. So like we'll talk about it in a little bit, but if you don't want spoilers, I guess tune out now. Thank you for watching. But Kels, tell us about Werewolf by Night.
All right. So Werewolf by Night was, as we said, when it was released, directed by Michael Giacchino.
Yeah,
We know him from doing the music for Doctor Strange 1, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, Spider-Man No Way Home. I
mhm.
believe also Multiverse of Madness, although I
No,
didn't
that was
double check on that.
Danny Elfman was Multiverse of
Okay. Well
Madness,
then
but
scratch
yeah.
that, not Multiverse of
Okay,
Madness.
but
Oh,
also very famous for Up, the score for Up, the very
yes.
famous score from Up. Recently, the Batman he did some of
Mhm.
the Star Trek movies. So yeah, he's been around. Ratatouille is my personal favorite of his.
He's a
The
talented guy.
Incredibles theme, another great superhero theme he did. So
Damn.
yeah, very very talented. He's like the Pixar superhero go to.
Yeah, for sure. So here's my little synopsis that I wrote. After the owner of the monster killing weapon, the Bloodstone, dies, six monster hunters fight to the death to see who will claim it.
Yeah. So we talked about this when the trailer dropped, but this is a very different aesthetically looking. It's shot. I think it was shot in color, but they made it black and white in post because they want to give it that grindhouse feel, that old
Mhm.
school horror monster movie thing. I mean, Kelsey and I
Mhm.
have been watching horror movies all month for October, and we're actually going to talk about it on the show later this month on Halloween. like a lot of the movies we're watching, some of them are like big throwbacks to where like things are black and white and they're kind of creepy. They got that eerie feel. It almost feels dated, but like that's the beauty of it at times. And I know they were trying to go for that here, and I think that's the first thing that I want to talk about is just the aesthetic because like
Mhm.
that it's so different than anything we've gotten in the MCU. But
Yeah.
of course, there are moments of color, which we'll also talk about. But Kelsey, what did you think of just the overall feel and look of this compared to all the other Marvel stuff? Like, did you like this as a departure? Did this kind of make you go, okay, like I'd rather just my old Marvel stuff, or how'd you feel about it?
Dill, I loved this. I had
Okay.
such a great time. I loved the aesthetic right off the bat from the first. So you get to start off with the Marvel intro as seemingly as normal, but then it gets slashed by some claws. It gets transported into black
Hmm.
and white. The music gets a little bit distorted. It sounds a little more like old timey, like it's on
Yeah.
a record. And from the jump I was into it. I really liked this jump into a different genre, a different aesthetic, as you've been saying. And I just really loved the lighting and the grittiness of it and how it's gruesome at some points. Like I feel like this is the darkest like the MCU has been without being like attached to a different project, if that
Hmm.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because certain MCU stuff has gotten darker, like Thor: Love and Thunder. The gore stuff was darker. I mean, it's dealing with
Sure.
cancer, and Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness was kind of teased as a horror movie, even though I think it's more just like darker sci-fi fantasy. But
Sure.
Phase 4 has been admittedly getting a little bit darker though, like trying to experiment with stuff. Moon Knight, another good example. She-Hulk and Miss Marvel, not as much, but still, like
Mhm.
they've been diving into more experimental horror, darker elements. But yeah, this is
Yeah.
like full fledged. This is like committing 100%. I brought up the whole like it looked like it was shot in color and it got transferred to black and white because I do think at times it looks almost a little too clean to where I was like, I wish it was a little grittier. Like I wish there was a little bit more
Mm.
texture to kind of like give it that feel of like the old timey, like kind of crackly, like maybe something with the sound would have helped maybe a little bit, just make
Sure.
it feel even more old timey because I think that would have been really, really cool. I think honestly the trailer aesthetically was more my vibe than the movie itself. That's not to say the movie itself wasn't good, but like the aesthetics, I was like, it was almost a little too clean, and that's where I think they're still trying to like say, well, we are Marvel, and like we don't want you to tune out right away because if it went too far outside the box, I'm worried they would have lost people. But
Sure.
I do like just the darker tone though, especially with the writing and the story. Like, yes, there's some comedy in there, and I think that's the worst bits of it is like when they try to force one-liners in there because it just doesn't fit with the vibe of this. But most of it, like I'd say 85 to 90% of this is serious. It's drama. It's this hunt of these just people in this small confined space. I like that too. The fact that it's like the quarters are so close that it's like every turn you could find another hunter, and I like that.
Mhm.
Um, you don't know what's around the corner. Everything, the playful production design is fun. Like you could tell they
Yes.
built everything practically. There's no green screen here except for like the
Yes.
monsters themselves. Like they're actually having fun experimenting with the set, and I have to give it to Michael Giacchino, or Giacchino, I don't know, Cappuccino, I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he did a
Who's to
great
say?
job, Mikey G,
Mhm.
of like directing this. Like it did feel playful. It felt like we were in on the game, if it was a game or if it's a hunt. Like kind of
Yeah.
teetering that line between game and hunt. Like I liked the way he navigated it. I mean, this is his first time directing, and you can tell he has a real grasp on like the cinematic language and how to convey that. And I really like that, especially with his score added on top of that, because his score, we knew his he's been a composer forever, but like the music is so good here because I think
Yeah.
he knows exactly what I mean, it's his fully realized vision. But yeah, I liked all the playfulness of the direction, of the production design, of the character designs, all the aesthetics. I liked it. I wish it went a little bit more grindhouse in terms of its like I wish I saw a little bit more of like the cigarette burns on the film and like the crackly
Mm.
like kind of sound.
Yeah,
But like
sure.
again, that's we're a long ways away from that for Marvel. But I did think this was very tonally different, and I really appreciated it for that for sure.
Well, Dill, it's interesting that you say that because I kind of appreciated the fact that they didn't go like lean too hard into the old timiness of how
Mhm.
old films were made, just because have just come off watching Night of the Living Dead. And maybe it's just the style of that
Mhm.
movie in particular. I can't speak on behalf of all movies from, the 1960s, 1970s, but that movie had such weird jump cuts and
Mhm.
edits in it, and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if that was how all movies were, if it was just, like, a stylistic choice for that film in
Well, it
particular.
was also super low budget too, which like Marvel obviously has a budget. So I think even
Right.
that just shows like it's hard when you have a budget to make something look low budget. Like you just can't because
Sure.
everything's just so good. So yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like Night of the Living Dead barely had a budget. And even then, like it's available on every streaming service because like they didn't even have like real distribution right. Like the distribution of
Mm,
it was kind of just fair game. Like it was a very that whole movie has very interesting history, which we'll talk about when we talk about like Halloween watching later this month. But
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely not that vibe. I kind of wish it was a little bit more of that vibe, but I see what you mean. Like it could be alienating. You have the budget, use it, make it look good. I get that point. Like, yeah, like they had the budget, they made it look kind of clean and slick, but like it still
Yeah.
looks good. It's just I would have preferred the other way. But yeah, you make a good point because also you got to think a lot of people aren't growing up with all the old classic horror movies, especially our
Mhm.
generation. I mean, a lot of them,
Mhm.
Frankenstein, Dracula, those are the 30s and 40s. That's almost 100 years of movies. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people just aren't watching classic movies, and I implore people to. But again, like
Mhm.
there's so many movies to watch that it's like how far back you go. You're not going to watch every single classic movie. So I get how like they're trying to cater it to a new to get them interested, and maybe they will check out some of those older, low budget ones after this now, and maybe not be as impressed, but still like maybe this was the first step. Maybe it's good to go in the reverse order of like draw them in with this and then go to like some of the more low budget, crappy quality, grindhouse stuff.
Yeah. I just thought it was like a perfect marriage between
Hmm.
like today's technology, but like yesterday's
Right.
aesthetic.
Hmm.
I don't know. I
No,
liked
it's a
it.
good point. Yeah, no, I totally get it, and I'm just being a little bit of a snob, just because, again, like I have seen some of the older horror stuff, and like I don't love all of it. Like even Night of the Living Dead, I think is very dated, but I kind of like appreciate it because that's. But I've got to think like this isn't the time. Like the time is now, and that's when this is being made. So like maybe in 40 years from now, this will look dated. Who knows?
Mhm.
So I'm actually talking about it now. I'm kind of a little bit more okay with the fact that it isn't as as flawed. Honestly, it's a little cleaner, because
Sure.
I think the story is engaging enough that like the visuals and the black and white itself on its own is enough to give it a vibe that like
Mhm.
you're right, it doesn't necessarily need all the other stuff. Yeah.
And what you're saying before, Dale, how you knew that like like this whole set, like they built this whole world, like everything was practical.
Hmm.
These were elements that I greatly appreciated about this project because nowadays the MCU is full of green screen, full of CGI. But you could tell that like they were really in this maze, that like this cage that they built around the two main characters was real, that his costume as the werewolf was very real.
Yeah,
It was a real
I
suit.
mean,
It was not
it was makeup and
CGI.
I mean the monster that they were trying to hunt was
Yeah.
obviously CGI and
Yeah.
great, especially when it went to color at the end. Like it looked great. I love that shot of the two of them sitting at the end, like they're
Yeah.
buddies. Like one of them looks more human, but like they're both monsters and they're hanging out on a
Yes.
log. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I like the practicalness of the costumes and the actors' commitment to it too. We haven't talked about the acting yet,
Mhm.
but the actors actually
Yes.
like felt like they knew what kind of thing they were taking it seriously. Because I think
Mhm.
sometimes movies like this can go one of two ways. You can either embrace the camp and make it so crazy and like really dive into like the silliness of it, like a Rocky Horror, or you can commit to being so serious that because it's serious, it also ends up over the top and spooky. And that's what this is. It's like they're
Yes.
committing fully to the seriousness of it, and that adds to the camp of it, which I really like. Like I think it's a cool balance because we're actually getting some quality performances. Gael Garcia Bernal as the werewolf, the Jack Russell, like that is
Mhm.
a great performance. He's giving a lot there.
Yes.
And Harriet Sansom Harris, who I love. I've seen her in like little bit parts in comedies, but I've never seen her as like an old spooky villainous woman. Like she's like the leader,
Mm,
she's the widow, and she's doing so much here. Like I love it. Like the dark
yeah.
makeup and all the like they're all committed, like fully 100%, but not to like the joke. They're not committed to any sort of like schlock. They're committed to
Yeah.
actually giving great performances, which then just fits the vibe and aesthetic and makes for like a kind of genre picture because of it. I really like.
Yeah. Deal 100% because it's quick. It's only 40 minutes, so you don't have a ton of time to get invested in these characters and these storylines, but because these actors did such a good job, you're invested from the jump. Like, you know who you're rooting for. Like, it's like, there's 6 of them and they all kind of have their own different quirks and
Hmm.
personalities, but there's 2 right away that obviously Jack Russell you connect with right away, and Elsa Bloodstone, the estranged daughter who comes in, like you immediately can resonate with this character. You understand the relationship between her and her father. Like, I just think we need to commend so many things here. The actors, the writers. It was just all working for me. Like, it
I
all just
agree.
worked very
Yeah.
well.
And it's interesting because it is like you said 40 minutes and it makes me think like sometimes we're like these movies too short, it needed more character development. Like we've talked about how things were kind of rushed in places in Thor Love and Thunder and Doctor Strange, but then I look at this and I'm like, this was 40 minutes
Hmm.
and I feel like I got all the character stuff. So I don't necessarily think
Yes.
length is a determining factor of quality because we've also had longer films that aren't as good. Like Avengers: Age of
Right.
Ultron is long, and I'm like, a lot of it feels like fluff, and I like that movie, but still, like some movies feel longer and are fluffy, and some are shorter and need more fluff. Whereas this is
Right.
short and has the fluff, or it doesn't have the fluff, doesn't need the fluff, and it's interesting because
Yeah.
like
No.
I think this is straightforward storytelling, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's not excess, but everything that's in there has a meaning and gets across its full meaning. So I think this is a good example to set for Marvel that if they want to really embrace the comic side, because comic books, they're short. Comic books don't take more than a day to read, or at least each book. Like if you get one of like the big like collection sets or whatever, yeah, it's gonna take a
Hmm.
while. But like each individual comic book is pretty swift. You can get through it in at least a day. So like I wish honestly like they kept going around along this route, like making these specials that are like one offs. Kind of underrepresented Marvel characters. Like maybe you don't get a full movie with these characters because like the Werewolf by
Hmm.
Night, like it's a cool character, but I don't know if you need a whole like 2 hours with them. I like this. It's 40 minutes. You kind of just get the sense of it. It's kind of like what If was doing, but because What If was using characters we knew, some of the stories were a little lackluster because we're like, well, but that version was better, or that was a fun twist, but I still like the original. Here it's an original character, but still in like that smaller, shorter format, and it's not stretched out to a full series, not stretched out to a feature film. I wish they embraced this more. Like, let's get a Squirrel Girl 40-minute special. Like, let's get like a 40-minute
Yeah.
special, maybe for some of the X Men. Maybe this is how you introduce the X Men. You do like a little 40-minute Rogue special, or a 40-minute Cyclops, or a 40-minute Beast, and then maybe do a team up once you've kind of introduced them because you don't need 2.5 hour origin stories anymore. You just don't. We've seen it. Shang-Chi was pretty smart in how it you know handled and balanced everything, but you look at phase one
Hmm.
now, some of them, the origin stories don't stand out as much because like we've seen them all before, like Thor and Captain America First Avenger. Like there's good elements, but like the origin story is getting tired, and I like how this was an origin story, but it was also like it wasn't just trying to set up a character for future universes. It was just trying to tell its own contained story. And I hope that's what we get more of because that's what the comic books were. Like there were overarching stories, but there were sometimes just one-offs of just fun little comic book character stories, like fun stories of fun characters doing their own thing. And that was the entertainment. You don't
Yeah.
need to make everything a longer, drawn out thing, which I liked about this a lot.
Yeah, 100%. So, Jill, I obviously had to look into these
Please
characters
do. Please tell us.
in my Marvel encyclopedia. Just while we're talking about them, I feel like this is a good time to talk about Jack Russell's backstory. So, basically, what I got was that basically he has all these ancestors in Transylvania. They have some beef with this vampire, Vlad Dracula, I think his name is. And so he puts a curse on his family. They used to be the Russoffs, I think. Puts a curse on their family that they're going to turn into werewolves. Years later, his original name was Jacob Russoff. So
Hmm.
his father, pause. First, we need to go back to when we first walk into like the Bloodstone Mansion or
Mhm.
wherever we are throughout this short, and we notice that there's one color that we can see in through the black and white, which is the red
Red.
bloodstone.
Mhm.
And at first, it's presented in, dare I say, what looks like a book, perhaps a book we've seen before. Perhaps, maybe even one could say, the Dark Hold.
Hmm. I know what you're
So
talking about.
there I was doing my silly little research, and I almost wrote it down. I was like, "Was that the dark hole?" But I was like, "No, no, no, that's just like where they're keeping the bloodstone. It's not the dark hold. It relax, Kels. Like it's fine." But then I was doing my research, and it said that so Jack Russell's father encountered the Darkhold, which has all of like it has everything about werewolves in it. There's like a whole passage on werewolves, and he
Hmm.
comes across this section and he just reads it and he curses himself and turns into a werewolf. So
Wow.
then he sends his wife and his son to go live in America because he's like, I'm dangerous now. You can't be around me. But the curse has already been put upon his family. So his mother remarries a man named Philip Russell. That's how he becomes Jack Russell instead
Mm.
of Jacob Rusoff.
Which also
Um,
Jack Russell is a type of dog, werewolf
yes.
dog. Yeah, makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I
it's
see. I
clever. It's
see.
clever.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And then on Jack's 18th birthday, he transforms into a werewolf. Very
Wow.
teen wolf of him,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
will. And
Yeah.
then there's a whole like storyline in the comics where he actually teams up with Elsa Bloodstone, and they work together to help monsters that are inflicted with this disease that
Which we saw this.
exactly.
Yeah, and I
So
love Ted.
very
I love Ted.
fun.
I love the monster we
I
get here.
did
Did
like
did you look
Ted.
up
Yes.
anything on Ted or no? Is Ted in there?
Well, they
No.
said that he was Man Thing. That was
Mm.
his
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yep.
that's like the name of his
It's
character.
comic character, yeah.
Yeah. But also then I came across so then there was like a quote, this website had interviewed Michael Giacchino and Gail
Garcia Bernal.
Garcia
Mhm.
Bernal. So they had interviewed them about the project and they were like, "Oh, so like what's going to be the future of Jack Russell in the MCU?" And of course, like he's like, "I have no fucking idea, but
Yeah,
you know,
right.
some fans have theorized that like maybe this could lead into a Midnight Suns storyline and
Mm.
essentially what the Midnight Suns are the members are well the leaders are Wong, Doctor Strange and Morbius. Oh, also
Mm.
Morbius is involved in like the Jack Russell storylines in the comics
We don't need to talk about
also, but
Morbius.
we don't need to talk about him. But then
We
the
don't
other
talk about
men
Morbius, just like we don't talk about Bruno.
we
Just we just
we
let him.
definitely do not talk about Morbius. Um, and then the current members are Blade, Elsa Bloodstone, Man Thing, and Wong. And some
Yeah,
people even and I think later on members also include Moon Knight and Jack Russell. So
yeah.
we
Well,
could possibly see some kind of storyline there,
I
or because what Michael Giacchino had also said in this article was that, you know, some people wanted to see cameos, some people wanted to have different other
right.
characters tied into this. And he was like, no, I just want to make this my own separate thing. Like, this
Yeah.
is just going to be a night that features Elsa and Jack, and we're going to just see how this plays out. And that's going to
Yeah.
be that.
Because he's a first time director, so he also doesn't want to spread himself too thin. Like he doesn't want to, go for thing. Like it's his first time. Like let him do the
Hmm.
story he wants to make. Don't try to give him too much to do. And like because he's only focusing on 40 minutes, he's able to make those 40 minutes really good. Like he's able to really like
Yeah.
hone in on it. And you told me all the backstory about Jack Russell, but I don't necessarily think I needed that to
Hmm.
like this piece. Like obviously, if
Yeah.
they had made this a 2-hour movie, we would have seen him transform into it. But I kind of like the surprise of like waiting till the very end to reveal it because we know the werewolf's coming and we know it's probably him. Especially people with the comics know it's him. But like the moment where he like kind of starts the transformation. It's fun because it's like we've been waiting for this, and this is our first time seeing it. It would have diminished it if we had seen it before on his 18th birthday. If they
Mhm.
had showed that, like I like how they wait till now to
Yeah.
show it because you don't really need a backstory. Like everyone who turns into a werewolf turns into it by getting cursed somehow or being like every origin story is kind of the same now. We don't need that,
Yeah.
and I like this. didn't need to see it. And we just got this reveal there. I like the way they did that too with the shadow on the wall. Just very, very inventive and fun um, way to design that. But you mentioned Blade, and I was thinking, like, we recently talked about in the last episode how Blade is going through a lot of production troubles, and maybe a lot of that is because this had early critic screenings a few weeks ago, and people love it, and maybe they're
Mhm.
like, maybe we need to rework it and get him in here, or find a way
Mm.
to connect these stories, which I'd be down for. Like, I think this is a fun character. I'd like to see more of with a Werewolf by Night, or Jack Russell, more of what is it, the Man Thing or whatever you said.
Man Thing?
Yeah, like
Ted?
I'd like to see more of it. Ted, love Ted. Um, like, I'd like to see more of that, especially Elsa too. Now that she's got the stone, like, what does that mean? Does she
Yeah.
go violent, evil? Does she keep being good? Like, what's the point? We don't know. But
Yeah.
if we don't find out, whatever. Like, this was still a great one-off. But like, I'd like to see them connect this somehow. Maybe not overwhelm the stories of like Blade and stuff. But like Blade, we don't need an origin story for Blade. We've seen Blade's origin story elsewhere. We've read it in the comics, or some people have. I haven't. But like, we
Mhm.
don't necessarily need an origin story for Blade. So like, this would be fun. Like, just jump it into some universe with this character and all that. So like, this opens up a lot of avenues, like you said, to go a lot of cool places. With Blade, even Moon Knight. Like, we just saw Moon Knight for the first time. Like, they could tie a lot of these Phase 4 people together, or Phase 5,
Yeah.
whatever. And I'd like to see it, honestly, because Wong is also becoming a bigger presence as each project goes on as well.
Yeah,
So I
clearly.
mean, it might be setting it up for itself. Who knows?
So, Dill, does this project mark the first one of Phase 5?
No, this is still technically Phase 4. Phase 4 will end with, technically, in terms of feature films, Phase 4 ends with Black Panther:
Black
Wakanda Forever.
Panther?
But
Okay.
technically, this and the Christmas special that we're getting, the Guardians Christmas special at the end of the year, are part of Phase 4 as well. But they're more in
Okay.
like the TV realm. They're considered like specials or one offs or TV, rather than like the film canon. Um,
I
it is
gotcha.
still part of the Phase 4, though, I believe. So this is still, and honestly, one of the stronger parts of Phase 4, I think. Um, the
I'll
strongest. I
go.
still like some others, but yeah, what were you gonna
Yeah.
say, Kels? Would you say
I
it's
don't
the
know.
strongest?
I'll go as far as to say that right now, I mean, we'll see what Black Panther Wakanda Forever is like, but right now, this is like my favorite thing of Phase 4, I think.
There you go. I mean, yeah, like the typical answer, if you ask everyone, like the fandom, it's like Spider-Man: No Way Home. But like, we both have said, we have criticisms with that movie. But like, yeah, I think this
I
is
still
up
have to
there.
watch
This
that
is,
one again.
yeah, it was on Stars the other night, and I watched some of it. But I mean,
Still, we have to tell everyone that we went to a Marvel trivia night.
oh yeah. Okay, so wait, let's wrap up Werewolf by Night, and then we'll
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about our
yeah.
trivia night. So yeah,
Okay.
like, I liked it. I think aesthetically, going into this review, I didn't love that they didn't go like the extra mile to make it feel even grungier and grittier and more textured. But you've kind of sold me on the, like, it worked well for what it was. It had a big budget. Like, they should have made it look better if they had the budget to do so. So like, I'm kind of on that train of, like, I was riding a 6 out of 10. Now I'm riding up to a 7, and it might even go higher
Mm,
as I rewatch it, just because I just watched it, so I need to like
yeah.
ruminate with them more. It also fits the spooky season so well. I like that they released it now
Mhm.
in the midst of everyone's horror movie watching. If you're not watching horror in October, what are you doing, y'all?
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I definitely recommend it. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a very strong outing from Michael Giacchino as a director,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah, great cast. Again, it's fun. It's quick. It's easy. You can watch this 2 or 3 times this October and not get sick of it. Probably short.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's got a great score. And didn't even talk about it. My favorite shot, that one take of the hallway or whatever, where the door is like slowly
Yes.
closing.
Yep, yep,
That
yep.
shot is brilliant. I think he just showed in that one shot that he has the prowess to be a big time director,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see it. That shot was awesome.
Yeah. I will say, Dill, my one criticism of Werewolf by Night was the big reveal that he was the monster. I mean, I guess we knew from posters and from like the icon that is featured on Disney Plus before you even click on it that Jack is going to be the one that is the werewolf. But I just feel like even for maybe more for Elsa that she should have found out in a better way rather than him just going to touch the stone, getting hurt, and then all of
Mm.
a sudden everyone's there and the stepmom is there saying, "Oh, he's a monster," and I was like, that was kind of lame.
Yeah.
Like I would have preferred something else for it to go a little differently, just so it was a bigger
Sure.
shock. and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
landed more like in
Especially
on Elsa's face.
Yeah,
You know what I
especially
mean?
because they're not giving us the full backstory, like, and a really big surprise. No, I see what you mean. But yeah, you recommend it, obviously, I recommend it, so go check it out,
For
people.
sure
It's
do.
good. So, Kelsey, Wednesday night, we
Yeah.
had some fun. People who know me know I very rarely miss a Survivor Wednesday, unless it's a special occasion. Either I'm getting paid for work, or and even then, I try to schedule morning shifts on Wednesdays, or um, going to the bar to play trivia arises, and it arose this Wednesday. Kelsey,
Yes.
my one of my dearest, bestest friends, our dearest and bestest friends, Landon, who I used to live with. He's my ex roomie, but I hate using the word ex because it has a negative connotation. So my
Mm.
old roomie and my old roomie Landon, my BFF Kelsey and I went to this bar on Roosevelt Island. Sorry, I'm disclosing the location, but it's fine. We already left it, so you can't find us.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
which is if people live in New York, it's like this little island right off of Manhattan. It's very
Yeah.
small. You walk off the subway, and the bar is just on your right down this little winding path. And we did some Marvel trivia, and it was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
It was hard. The first round was just kind of general. They called it the easy questions, but I'll tell you right now, we're not going to spoil any of them because we're going to try to use some for our trivia league. But the easy questions were not that easy. And then the second round was a quote who said it, which Kelsey is obviously
Mhm.
very good at. And even then there
And
were
they
some
were
hard ones.
tough.
And then the third one was the easy round for us. That was
Yes.
they show us a picture and you have to name the person,
Yeah,
the
character
character.
identification.
And then the next one was Stanley Cameos. It was 10 questions about
Yes.
Stanley Cameos. Again, very hard because of the details. Very easy for the general sense, but again, difficult. And then the last round was a speed round, which was basically you couldn't ask for any repeats of the questions. They just rattled off the questions. You had to write down the answers, and that was near impossible, some of those questions. So uh, very tough. But Kelsey, how did we do?
You know, Dill, funny that you ask. We came in second place
Out of
out of
12. Out
12.
of 12. So top what is that percentile? I don't know, but top
I don't
few
know.
percentile.
Don't ask me to do math.
Math. Yeah, and we only lost to the first group cuz what they did is there were how many questions? 62 or something like that?
Something like
Yeah,
that.
62
Cuz it
questions and every question was just worth a point. So I don't know what our total was again, but we were 5 points below the winner, right? Or 3 points.
3.
3.
3.
We were sorry, I'm underselling us. We were 3 points below the winner. So all it took was us remembering a Valkyrie quote, an Aldrich Killian quote, and the
Yeah.
name of the Eternal ship, the Domo, and we would have been
Oh,
tied for victors. But again,
yeah.
those are hard questions, and there were a few more that we missed that we just would never have gotten just because it was so hard. But we got perfect
Yeah.
rounds in round one. In the picture round and in the Stan Lee round, we got all those perfect, so that is also very exciting. We just got some
Yes.
wrong in the speed round and the quote. Like we did really well. But Kels, like, how did you feel like? Because here we're doing Marvel trivia, and it's like, yeah, there's a pressure because you're on camera and stuff, and you're competing against people from around the world. Quite literally,
Sure.
Malcolm's in New Zealand, but like, how do you feel doing this in public? Like, because they gave us like scorecards. We wrote the answers, and we couldn't use our phones. Obviously, they went around and checked, but like, we were just writing down the answers and talking amongst ourselves. So it wasn't to, like outwardly like say the answers. We just had to write them
Yeah.
down. But how did it feel like being in this public setting with trivia? Like, was it a different experience for you?
You know, Dill, it was interesting because on the channel and being that, I conduct matches as well as play in them, I kind of can suss out my competition. I know where people's strengths and weaknesses are as
Yeah,
everyone in the league can watch every match and see how people are doing.
yeah,
But when you're at a bar with a bunch of strangers, you have no idea if the table next to you is just some Joe Schmoes who wandered in who are like, oh, Marvel trivia? Yeah, let's give it a shot. Or they are like, religiously watch the movies like I do. They take notes. They're diehard fans. They read the comics. Like you have no idea who you're sitting next to. So it was very hard to gauge like where we were landing in the group of people,
yeah.
It's
And
like
it's funny
it
because
looked
like yeah, the team next to us was they were going from 12th to first place. When they called 11th place, they said with 8 points, and it was the team next to us, and they were like, "Okay, we didn't come in last." And I'm like, this couple who, when I was watching them, I was like, "Oh, they know their shit." It's really interesting to see that. Like,
right.
and if you're listening, couple, like you were very pleasant to sit next to. It's just like you know, it wasn't your day, and that's okay. But you came and
Yeah.
played and you had fun. But we were definitely more competitive than a lot of the other teams in terms of wanting it
Sh
and being like, "Oh, we gotta get this. We gotta get this." Like, put your brain
Yeah.
to it, Kelsey. What was the score that Stanley gave at the beauty pageant?
Dude,
And we
oh
and
my
we got it.
god.
We got it. It was a 10. It was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I spoiled that question. That will not be in
No
the Werewolf
worries.
um league. But I will also say this is going to be the first announcement here. We're adding 2 wheel categories, and we're getting rid of another. We're getting rid of who said it because it's now just going to be quotes. So not only will you have to say who said it, but we will also have fill in the blanks of like he said this because you know
Oh.
because all who said it is just who said the quote, and instead we're going to
Yeah.
expand it to just quotes where it'll be like who like how many times did Captain America say I can do this all day in this thing,
Yeah.
or like
Sure.
finish the quote ba 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 ba. Like I like that because now it's less about like who said every quote because you can kind of tell by tone who said stuff, and now actually knowing
Yeah.
the quotes themselves, so it's a little harder, but it's also it broadens the horizon. So we're getting rid of who said it and we're adding just quotes to the wheel, so that will include who said it and other quote questions. And then we're also adding Stanley cameos to the wheel. That will be a category that you can spin. And yeah, it's going to be straightforward. It's going to be questions about Stanley cameos. You're not going to have to tell us how many because that's hard to gauge. But
Mhm.
there'll be details about his cameos. Obviously, that is a narrow field. So like if we run out of questions, we will get rid of that wheel. But that'll be starting in 2023. The next season, we'll be adding quotes and Stanley to the wheel, and we'll be getting rid of who said it. But that trivia night inspired that because I was like, wow, it's fun to like have Stan Lee as a
Yeah.
category. Like he has so many cameos and there's so many things to ask about that. So yeah.
Yeah. You guys learned that information the same time I did. This was also
I told
new
you.
for
Well,
me as well. You were
this is
like,
the
"Oh, I
first
have a pitch
time,
about the wheel round at trivia night." And I was like, "Cool," but
and I did say,
this is
I
what you went into detail about right here,
yeah.
right now, live on our podcast, which
Technically,
is
I did
fine.
say it to Kelsey,
It's
but Kelsey and
great.
I were both not in the right place to comprehend information. We were a few drinks deep, my lads.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
it
That's
was
another
fun.
thing. I
I
don't
don't think I
drink
told
when
you
I
the quote.
compete on this channel.
I don't think I told you the quotes thing, but I definitely told you the Stanley thing in the bar.
Yeah,
But it's okay.
probably.
Um, and I'm not really getting rid of who said it. It's more of like changing the category. I was just trying to
Yeah.
make it dramatic for you. I was like, we're getting rid of who said it. You immediately were like, what? But yeah, like
Is
trivia, we did it. We conquered. We didn't win.
We
Conquered
didn't win, but
10
we
other teams.
came pretty damn close.
Yeah.
I was proud of the work that we
Yeah,
did.
and Landon
Still
too.
am.
If Landon's listening, he pulled some clutch questions. He pulled an M'Baku quote that I wouldn't have gotten, that Kelsey
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten, and he pulled up some other ones too. And he was our scribe, which I didn't even give him credit for
Yes.
in the moment. Is a hard task when you're doing trivia, especially the speed round when the questions are flying at you. He was having to write down every answer, and he has such neat, meticulous handwriting too. And he was trying to fit it into this little box. He did a
Yeah.
great job, and that's like I think even a harder job than having to think of. Is having to be able to write them down, spelling all these things like Xandar and shit like that, spelling them, and just like
Jotunheim.
and hearing Kelsey and I screaming, and also himself, his brain turning because he's also answering
Yeah.
these questions. So
Right.
he did well too. So good job, Landy. But yeah, good job,
Dil
Kelsey. That was fun.
Thanks, Dill. I've been to other trivia nights, not
Really?
specifically Marvel, but, just other ones in general. Oh, I think I went to an Office one time,
Mhm.
and the how it worked was, like, you wrote it on, like, you wrote your answers on the index card, and then the person passed it up, and then in that moment, he went through the correct answers, and then he actually revealed everyone's standing so far throughout the game. And
Mm.
so you kind of knew how well you were doing. See, we would just kind of guess. We were just kind of
Yeah.
guessing along when he was revealing the right answers. We were like, "Oh, we put that right. Yeah, so we got that one right." And so we were just kind of guessing. That was another hard part to like gauge how well we were
Mm.
doing.
Yeah.
Um but at the end of the day, Jill, like when it comes to trivia, like I just want to do well enough for myself. Like I don't want to miss things that like, damn, I should have known that. And honestly, I was rather disappointed in myself when it came to the quote category just because those quotes are really hard. And
Yeah.
when I guess when you think of iconic quotes in the MCU, like you really only think of like the main heroes, but he had quotes from side characters. He had quotes from villains. Like you don't think to quote those people because they're the bad people. But now I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
rethinking how I go about, watching these movies now in preparation. So we're
Yeah.
gonna go to a few more before my match, just because I want
Yeah.
to. I'm studying up now,
Yeah.
so I'm
So
ready.
To tease what's coming on the rest of the month for the channel, we're getting more trivia. But first, next week we are going to be talking about the final 2 episodes of She-Hulk. Finally here, and guess what, y'all? Like Captain America, Daredevil fucks. And then the next week after that, we'll be having our Marvel trivia doubleheader. The undercard match is going to be between 2 competitors who had lost and have now got their first wins, and they're both hungry for another one. Zach, the Nexus being Love, will be taking on Brian Pizza Time Nussbaum for their second win, and the winner of that will play another worthy competitor down the line, which I won't tell you yet because I need to out. And then the main event, the number 1 contender match between Noah McCausland. I forget what his actual name is for the league. Hold on. What is his name? Pelvic Sorcery, Noah McCausland. That's right. And then, of course, JD, making this up as I go along, Domash, who has competed in a title match. He's trying to get to Kelsey again. So Noah or JD will be competing against Kelsey. Whoever wins that match will be the one who faces off against her in December. And then the week after that, it's Halloween. And we kind of teased it earlier here. We're not going to be doing anything Marvel specific. We're just going to be kind of shooting the shit about all the movies we watched in October for Halloween. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite Halloween traditions. We may even play fun clips of us carving pumpkins that we recorded a year or 2 ago for a little Kelsey short film. Maybe we'll play that on here as well, just to ability, or we'll tag it so people can go watch it.
Reacting to our
yeah, we
Halloween
can react
short.
to it. Yeah, that'd be fun. But we're just gonna do some Halloween shenanigans, stay on it for about an hour and just chat Halloween and have fun because it's Halloween. I may not be in costume. Kelsey probably will. I might not be, but we'll see.
Probably.
Maybe I might just have it and dress as a Yankee ball player, depending on if they win the playoffs or not. But that we will know by the Halloween. I think if we win the playoffs, but I hope so. I hope we win. So that is it, Kels. Are you looking forward to the next 3 weeks? She-Hulk, Marvel trivia, and some Halloween.
I sure am, Dill.
That's right.
Really loving it. Having a great time.
Where can they find you?
Oh, they can find me on Instagram. You can find me. My username is Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You could follow me on TikTok. Follow along to all the horror movies that I'm watching for the month of October. I am at Koz13. That's KOZ13. Or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have some sketches on there. Koz Productions.
Yep. And you can find me at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter. If you want to see my 31 days of Halloween and what I'm watching, you can go to my Letterboxd where I'm writing them out because I'm not confident enough to be on camera talking about each and every one of these movies yet. Just because there's so many movies. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put them on Letterboxd. People can watch it there because I'm also proud of my written work. I do a lot of video work here, but I'm also proud of my written work. So go check me out on Letterboxd. And maybe Kelsey to get one so she can log movies too, because I know she likes giving star ratings to them. She might.
You're convincing me, Dill. I do like writing.
It's very easy. You don't even have to write. You literally just have to give star ratings. You don't even have to write anything, but you can write.
Oh, I will.
If you want. Oh, okay. Dylan Randazzo 417 at TikTok. Also, I'm very not active on there, but I will be soon, hopefully. Also, not on Be Real, but everyone's telling me to get one. I don't know if I should.
Everyone's telling me to get on Be Real. Should we be real, Dill?
The fact that SNL was in on a Be Real joke and I wasn't, I felt old. I was like, you know what? Yeah. So anyway, I might have to get a Be Real. And then Dill Pickle Movie Network. That's where you're listening to this or watching this. Yeah, a lot of exciting things coming up on the channel. Should be in the next few days seeing a frame rec episode for Plan 9 from Outer Space that was supposed to air last month, but then I got really sick and we have to this month. We're also going to be doing another frame rec episode for HUGH-ge later in the month for horror film for a horror themed episode with our guest Chris Scott. We're also doing a slasher draft day with some horror guests from YouTube that I'm very excited. Some guests that have never been on draft day before, which I'm very excited about. And then we are also doing Picture This for 1991, which is the year where a horror film, Silence of the Lambs, won Best Picture. So Chad and I will be doing that for this year, as well as Beauty and the Beast was nominated that year, which is also a sweet little film that has some spooky undertones. So it's all spook fest here on the Dill Pickle Movie Network. We hope you stick around for it. If not, we'll see you next week for some She-Hulk finale, episodes 8 and 9. Hope I didn't spoil that for you, Kels, but it's such a minor.
No, you didn't. I watched it.
Okay, great. Bye.